Hey guys, Tyro here, bringing you the Star Series tutorial covering the vehicle mechanics in Company of Heroes 2. First up, we'll be looking at health. Health, similar to other games, is the amount of damage the vehicle can take before it will die. To give you an idea of the scale, one of the lowest health vehicles, the COH2, has 160 HP, and the highest health vehicle, the Churchill, has 1400 HP. Unfortunately, these numbers are not in the in-game UI. However, going to websites to learn them does pay off, as they help you calculate shots to kill, which helps in decision making such as when to attack and when to pull back for repairs. As the counterpoint to health, we have damage, which ranges from 4 damage for a bullet from a Pioneer submachine gun to 320 damage for a shell from the PaK-43 anti-tank gun. For a very common in-game example, many medium tanks have 640 health and deal 160 damage, meaning they will kill each other in 4 hits. Next up, we have Armour. Armour is the unit's resistance to taking damage. However, in Code 2, its implementation is quite unique compared to other strategy games. Vehicles have a different front and rear armour value. However, contrary to the myth, there is no side armour. Essentially, the vehicle gets split down the middle into 2 different hitboxes. Damage sources landing on the front hitbox encounter the frontal armour value, and damage sources landing on the rear hitbox encounter the rear armour value. For the range of values, we have 1.9 for the Kübelwagen rear and 525 for the Jagdtiger front. This armour value does not translate into a strict damage reduction percentage. Instead, it determines whether the damage source can penetrate the vehicle's armour. If the penetration value is greater than the armour value, then you have a 100% chance to do damage. However, if the penetration value is lower than the armour value, then you have to follow the formula penetration divided by armour times 100 to get your percentage chance to do damage. If the damage source fails to penetrate the vehicle's armour, then it does 0 damage, except for handheld anti-tank weapons, which do 25% of their regular damage when they fail to penetrate. This is known as deflection damage. Also, in recent patches, 50% deflection damage has been added to vehicles with slow projectile speeds that are more like artillery in nature, such as the Brummbär and the Bulldozer Sherman. And now, getting back to the penetration formula. As an example, most infantry in the game shoot guns that have a penetration value of 1. This is known as small arms fire. Using the Kübelwagen rear armour value from earlier, this leads to a 53% chance to penetrate. Using the rear armour value of the Panzer II Luchs light tank translates to a 2.85% chance to penetrate. However, penetration chances of 3% or lower are rounded down to 0. This means that the light tank class of vehicles and greater are immune to normal gunfire. As a general guideline, which is true for a large proportion of the vehicles in the game, especially at the medium tank level, rear armour is half as much as the front. This shows the importance of targeting the rear armour, as it can massively improve your chances to deal damage. For light vehicles, the rear armour is typically a little bit higher in proportion, and for heavy tanks it is typically a little bit lower in proportion. I've already mentioned it a couple times, so next up is penetration. All damage sources in the game have a penetration value. However, the value can change depending on the range that you are fighting at. Close range penetration is higher and long range penetration is lower. This both resembles real-world mechanics and adds an interesting layer to the decision-making process as to what range you want to engage at. If we take a look at the variety you're likely to see in-game, small arms is the lowest value with 1 at all ranges. On the other end of the spectrum, the Jagdtiger has 550 penetration near and 500 at far. And now if we take a look at 2 vehicles in the same class, you can see where the decision-making process comes into effect. The T-34-76 is worse at all ranges, but much worse at long range. So your options are to use it close, target its rear armour, try to outnumber the Panzer IV due to the T-34's cheaper cost, or save for a bigger tank with a more powerful gun. That links us nicely to the topic of range. Range determines how far a vehicle can fire. In game, this goes from 35 for the M3A1 Scout Car to 80 for the Jagdtiger. The most common range for vehicles is 40, with a selection of 40 range vehicles shown at the bottom here. Now it is commonly asked, well, how far is 40 range anyway? And due to camera angles, it's quite tricky to demonstrate. Probably it is best learned through experience, though here we are on a custom map where each one of the lines is 5 range. As you can see, the Sherman can see out to 35 range, which is the standard sight for vehicles, but it can shoot one line further out to 40 range. So this is 40 range. Infantry also have 35 sight range, however they can only shoot to 35 range, so make sure you use this 5 range advantage to kite infantry with your vehicles. Most tank destroyers can shoot all the way out to 60 range. It's the same for anti-tank guns, which can also shoot all the way to 60 range, except for the Raketen, which can only shoot to 50, however it makes up for this by having stealth capabilities. Some vehicles have activatable abilities to improve their sight range. Some other vehicles, such as the M20 Scout Car, have improved line of sight by default. This goes out to 50 range, giving you a large tactical advantage over the standard 35 sight range vehicles. Relating this back to what we learnt about penetration earlier, for almost every vehicle in the game you'll get the near value at 0 range, the mid value at half the vehicle's range, and the far value at the vehicle's max range. Next up, and closely related to range, is accuracy. Unlike other strategy games, when a unit shoots in COH2, it is not guaranteed to hit its target. Instead, you have 2 chances to hit a vehicle, through the accuracy system and through the scatter system. First up, we'll tackle the accuracy system, which gives you your percentage chance to directly hit the target. The formula for this is the accuracy value of the attacking tank times the target size of the enemy vehicle times 100 to get your percentage chance for a direct hit. When I say direct hit, that doesn't mean it's guaranteed to do damage. Remember, after the shot lands, it will still have to go through the penetration system to determine whether it does damage or not. Similar to penetration values, accuracy values vary with range. As you would expect, close range you are significantly more accurate than long range. In the case of the Panzer IV, twice as accurate. Target size is basically how big the vehicle is. As you can see below, light vehicles having a smaller value and heavy tanks having a larger one. If I put these values into the formula, you can see at point blank the Panzer IV is guaranteed to hit the T-34-76. At mid-range it has 82.5% chance to hit, and at max range it has a 55% chance to hit. Now you're probably thinking, well, my tanks miss a lot more than that, am I unlucky? Maybe, but it's probably because you're firing whilst on the move. If the vehicle is moving whilst firing, you can multiply the accuracy value by 0.5. This is commonly known as the moving accuracy penalty. Because this penalty is so high, it adds an interesting layer of decision making to vehicle control. Do you chase to keep the range low and the accuracy high, or do you stop to remove the moving accuracy penalty? More on this in my micro tips series. The exception to this are US Forces vehicles, which only experience a moving accuracy penalty of 0.75. This is due to the faction being designed around high mobility and aggressive maneuvers. So in summary, learning accuracy and target size values are of marginal benefit and I would not recommend it. However, understanding accuracy mechanics is beneficial to decision making, and of course the greatest benefit of all is now you can truly blame your luck when your high percentage plays do not work out in your favour. Now if a shot fails to roll a hit through the accuracy system, it will scatter. The scatter shot will be towards the intended target, but its exact path will be influenced by RNG. As you can see in this diagram, the scatter shot can land short or long of the target, and it can also vary by a certain angle either side. This means the scatter shot could land anywhere inside the green area. Now if we add a vehicle hitbox to the diagram, you can see there's a lot of area not covered by the hitbox, meaning the scatter shot has a large chance to miss. However, if we move the vehicle closer, now the hitbox covers almost the entire area, meaning scatter shots are much more likely to land close range. Attack ground shots count as scatter shots, and scatter shots will not collide with friendly vehicles, however they will always collide with enemy vehicles on their path. Accuracy shots on the other hand can go through enemy vehicles doing no damage in the process, meaning trying to block shots with another vehicle is only effective some of the time. It's a similar situation with wheeled objects like this heavy cover wall. The scatter shots collide with the wall and the accuracy shots land on the vehicle. It's the same story again for elevation. Scatter shots landing on the elevated ground, and accuracy shots going right through and hitting the enemy vehicle. Next up, we're covering movement. Max speed is the fastest a vehicle can move over default terrain. This ranges from 3 for the Jagdtiger to 7.8 for the M20 Scout Car, and as a comparison, infantry moves at 3.6. The unit of measure here is the same as the range we learnt earlier, per second. Acceleration is the rate at which the vehicle gains speed, ranging from 0.5 for the Jagdtiger to 3.5 for the M20 Scout Car. So it will take 6 seconds for the Jagdtiger to accelerate to its max speed. There is no penalty to max speed or acceleration for moving in reverse, so make sure that your frontal armor is facing the correct direction. As you would expect, rotation rate is how quickly the vehicle can rotate, ranging from 12 for the Jagdtiger to 45 for the M3A1 Scout Car. For all these movement stats, generally speaking, light vehicles are fast and heavy tanks are slow, no surprises there. The terrain can also impact your vehicle's movement. When a vehicle is on a road, multiply its max speed by 1.5. However, note, not everything that looks like a road is a road. These roads with no negative cover will not provide a movement speed bonus, whereas these roads which do have the negative cover will. For mud, multiply the max speed by 0.7. And for ice, it varies a lot between different vehicles. However, expect a large decrease in acceleration and deceleration. Driving on ice can also make your vehicles do some nice looking drifts. Though be careful, because the ice can break, leading to your vehicle's watery death. And now, how vehicles interact with the destructible environment, which is known as crush. Light cover world objects like fences will obstruct infantry movement, but even the smallest light vehicle can move through and flatten them with ease. This is known as light crush. However, light crush vehicles cannot flatten heavy cover objects such as stone walls, and cannot run over to squish infantry. Next is medium crush, which can flatten heavy cover objects and run over infantry. As you might expect, this is found on the medium tank class of vehicles. Medium crush vehicles are unable to flatten the thicker tree and scrub lines that tend to block line of sight. For that, you need heavy crush, which is found on heavy tanks. And finally, we'll be covering troop transports. You can see how many squads a vehicle can transport when you select it. This M3A1 can carry 1 squad, and this M5 can carry 2 squads. Troop transports come in 2 varieties, closed tops such as the 251 and the Opel Blitz. When infantry are inside these, they are unable to shoot out. However, the advantage of closed top half tracks is that they can fit team weapons inside where the open top cannot. For open top transports, when units are inside, they are able to shoot out. Generally speaking, regardless of how many units are inside at once, 4 models can fire at any time. You can see here they are standing at the ready to fire. Of course, there are exceptions to this. The universal carrier looks open topped, but as you can see, when the units are inside, their guns are away, so they are not able to fire from it. And the M3, when occupied, has 5 positions for units to fire from, which is higher than other vehicles. When it comes to determining which guns are going to be firing when the open top transport doesn't have enough firing positions for every member in the squad, it appears that slot weapons such as the 2 Panzerschrecks on this Panzer Fusilier squad have priority. However, adding another squad with some more Panzerschrecks do not override the other 2 slots. When the second squad gets inside, they actually end up occupying none of the firing positions, as you can see between these 2 different uniforms, between the Fusiliers and the regular Volksgrenadiers. Uniforms of the firing squads do not change at all, demonstrating whichever squad gets in first will be firing from the half track. That's it for this installment, guys. I'd like to give a special thanks to all those that donated to help me get over to GCS2. I hope you enjoyed the coverage.